Yes. Roman. You need. Okay. So we'll take a short break, and then we'll hear from Yusuf for a brief coda. Okay. Okay.
Yusuf is in.
They passed by. They looked at me. I couldn't reach them. I keep on looking around. In 10 minutes, call. I tried, but the telephone is not on.
That's not. I don't know the time. Anyway, I'll be right back.
Keep this here.
I'll be right back. So,
Let's try this instead. This is it.
hey, Bob.
You don't have any. You don't have any.
But I can use the let's try it. Very good.
Yeah, this time.
But also always better.
Bob says you're having trouble plugging in your wife. What color car is she?
It's the same gray Toyota.
Gray Toyota. So if I go stand outside for a few
No,
minutes.
I kept on waiting, but you wouldn't. Well, you wouldn't say. You would not disseminate it. Let them fight. I gave them the codes, everything for this place.
Yeah, but if I see an old lady out here driving around in a gray Toyota and I say, Joseph's wife,
Then they may have a smash in the face as soon as they're looking.
Green man.
Islam. That's what the section I left just
okay.
No, they're not demanding.
Still sure.
No, they're not. They have. They got this.
That's what you do.
Yeah, but they, they mix gases. They got a few of them.
Don't rush, don't rush. It's what you will do more.
So she got on the
I've seen that. Oh, right. That's right. Do you live in New York?
I'm making my food. I still seeing it, I'm still showing So sure,
Pretty soon they'll be stringing. I used to always listen to the NPR broadcast on Saturday mornings. In cinemas, there we go. That's really interesting. They even have one in There's more than one in Roswell.
You know,
It says 3, 4, 5,
Ukraine is at the west in the United States. I couldn't believe it.
must be in
Where you're at, and now it's the diversity in that.
It's different to New York.
I cannot believe it. Ukraine, if we let it happen.
Yeah, I appreciate you.
It's like the unthinkable. 20 years. It's sad. I'm telling you, what's the country's running down the tubes. Yes, oh, you got to turn. How'd you do that? Oh, you moved the seat. It broke. We tried to get it to turn yesterday. No. Yeah, no, I was thinking about it, but when you said, you know, these names. Yeah. No, actually, you just want to make you should be honest.
Yeah, Pakistan is better as well.
You need to raise the guy started crazy. He wasn't crazy, he was exactly what
Always.
Everybody that I know.
It's always good to be You know, I was thinking around 3 or 4. Each time I come here, because we have always wanted This is being built by the screen. It's about the size of the.
It's the same size as yeah, it only changes the aspect ratio because the projection is right now.
Yeah, but it's that's what we want.
That's very huge.
Now this
The other day, they said, that he was there.
Okay, Roman, you'll get Yusuf.
Yeah, but we have to take the
Okay, because I want to get started. I want to make sure we have you and then one more presentation. And I want to in an hour so we can have lunch. It is. It's there right now.
Something done. Okay, make it directly straight. I can do that. I can just like this.
Can you try the other one? Yeah, right again. Or you can
What is this computer doing? Take this like this. Yeah.
You wanna face the audience.
Yeah, that's right.
You can see her.
Yeah. I don't want to. But in this, you must have been able to see this.
Roman, this cat connection can I pick it up on an iPhone too?
It doesn't even protect this.
Pero they don't refer you from parents.
In the video.
It's also video? We want to parents. You don't have an app for that? You have a Skype app? How do you use Skype?
Roman, can I
don't know.
bring people
You have an Escape account.
Okay, we're ready. Okay.
No, it's free.
Is it free?
It's free.
So I can download?
Yeah.
Technical problem?
I have no idea why it's not working, but
So I download the app here?
let's see now. I'm restarting everything.
Okay.
Okay.
So maybe a couple more minutes.
Now to the screen share. If necessary, just repeat it.
The problem is to display it. Yeah, but it's still be showing there. So
That's good.
Should I give you another?
well, whatever. I'm just waiting for this.
No, I'll take it.
When I met you, the first thing you did was like, I mean, that's good.
I have not met him. No. He's a historian at American University in Paris.
But I did it before, every now and then. And I had good.
No, the gentleman who spoke via Skype. I'm not, okay, we ready?
That was a great connection. He was live to West.
Yes, okay.
You know what the problem was? Somebody pulled the cable over there.
Live. Live. I'll pass all these parts.
Oh. Did you buy? It's not that important, but remember the WAIS kids? I guess just say
And probably it'd be best if we did it.
I'll try to cut in the short as possible.
And, yeah, I was gonna suggest.
Okay,
You know that essentially Oxford 6'9" and AOL got cost.
Okay, we'll get started again.
Anyway, thank you.
This is a coda. Yusuf Kanli, we know him from yesterday, and his talk on the Muslim Brotherhood, and I had no idea there was the Masonic connection, which is something it's one of the big things I learned this weekend, although I've learned a great deal of things this weekend. However, Yusuf I cut him off, and I felt bad about that, and so he's a good guy. He traveled a long way, and so he's going to finish up, sort of bring us up to the present day and President Erdogan in Turkey. And after that, we'll hear from Evelyn Aleman, who arrived about an hour ago. And this should put us in time for lunch. Have a bagel if you're hungry now, but we should be in lunch in 1 hour's time. So here is Yusuf. Come back. Okay. So Yusuf, I think we left off at about 19.
I'll just make a
70.
short summary of
Okay,
where
all right,
I'm
here's Yusuf.
going. If you like, let me remind that this trouble started, according to, of course, interpretations, either by Afghani, which indeed was hired by the Ottoman Sultan originally to establish some sort of a confederation. They had no idea of what confederation is, of course, at the time, but a unity of Muslim states under the Caliph, that is the Sultan, independent in internal affairs, but together in external affairs. Of course, we had the Muslim Brotherhood connection that I just mentioned, but this thing, of course, was misunderstood altogether by the West, particularly after 9/11. Why? Because West thought that the best way of defeating radical Islam, jihadism, political Islam, whatever you may call it, or Islamist terrorism, which many people hate to call it, but it's a reality, is to nourish moderate Islam. Nourishing moderate Islam, of course, may sound good to ears, but in reality, it doesn't mean much, as we have seen. But before that, we have the background of this idea that landed us to the current problem. And that was the Brzezinski period, when the famous Green Belt policy was developed, when Turkey, Iran, and Pakistan was nourished to become more Muslim, therefore establish a barrier in front of the Russian Soviet expansion. The idea was good, but the end result was Islamization of Pakistan, which now has become at the time, first fell victim to Taliban, then Taliban took over Afghanistan with the CIA weapons and the money. The Taliban became a headache for the United States and the rest of the world. Al-Qaeda developed out of it, and we had a lost Pakistan, a lost Iran because Shah was overtoppled by the Islamists in the meantime, and we have a more religious Turkey as a result of support. That is the product of the Brzezinski's Green Belt policy. If you add all this on, of course, yes, it was successful. The proxy war was done. Russia, Soviet Union and the United States didn't fight a war, but they had a proxy war over Afghanistan. The Soviets lost the war, withdrew to their homeland, had a big humiliating defeat, coupled with other developments that in the morning the chair explained in detail. The Soviets collapsed. Yes, it was all success, but there was a losing party, and that was it. Afghanistan was liberated, but the rest, we all lived together. What happened? And in this, we all, as I underlined yesterday, we have to keep in mind the Crusades mentality or the Crusades trauma open on Muslim societies. Coupled with all these, we have a ripe atmosphere for exploitation anyhow against the West. These conspiracy theories and the rest. But when we had the Islamic Revolution, something strange happened. The first postal stamp of the Islamic Iran was, who? Guess? Sayyid Qutb. A Sunni cleric on an Iranian Shia postal stamp. The father of the doctrine of Muslim Brotherhood on the Iranian regime's stamp. This showed that the divide doesn't mean much, indeed, this Sunni-Shia divide, when it comes to political Islamists as the target of both were to return to Islamic State with norms and spirit of Muhammadan times. I will pass this section short because I want to concentrate more on Turkey this time, but I want to underline that there was a huge trauma as well between Turkey and United States relations because of the 2003 1st of March road accident. How many of us remember what happened that day? Perhaps if you are not interested, you will understand. But Turkish Parliament voted whether to let United States open a second front in the war with Iraq through Turkey, station troops on Turkey, and allow Americans to move in. Some weeks ago, who was not then the Prime Minister because he was still banned, his ban was lifted in February, and he was elected deputy later. Erdogan was received in full honors at the White House and pledged to the American president that the permission will be given. Ships were docked at the Mersin port. Several thousand soldiers were on board, loaded guns, places were hired on the road for resting areas, recreation areas. Everything was done. Well, much better than I would these details. Even at Mardin, they established barracks. But the Turkish parliament voted technically for the permission, but because of the bylaws of the Turkish parliament, you need clear majority of those all present, and those who abstained amounts to no vote in such a condition, and with the no votes and abstentions together, the vote was the permission was denied, and that created a huge trauma in Turkish-American relations, perhaps not as big as the 1967 Truman letter trauma, which is not the place to discuss now, but this was a big confidence crisis between the two allies. And in that thing, the Kurds helped a lot the Americans. Indeed, I believe you all know, in our part of the geography, worse than the enemy is the one who collaborates with the enemy. that is, the collaborator is worse than the enemy. I mean, remember the Palestinians killed just because they were helping the Israelis or providing information to the Israelis. It's very difficult in that part of the geography. And the Kurds won the sympathy of Americans by helping out despite that huge risk. And today they are facing a price of it, indeed, because the Arabs are very skeptic to all Kurdish designs. But this mild Islamism idea ended up gradually development of what we call later the Arab Spring. Arab Spring, of course, nourishing democracy in the Middle East and North Africa was good and perhaps in the best interest of Israel. Perhaps it was indeed the best way to get rid of the Middle East and concentrate on the real interest area of the United States, this is the Pacific, for obvious reasons. But what started in Tunis, a young man, a university graduate, unemployed man, burning himself on the street in protest of his hopeless situation, we gave way to an Arab Spring, they call it, but that Arab Spring in a short period of time turned to Arab fire, because in a society or in a geography where there is no civil society, there are no real political parties, and the only organized element was the underground or above ground, whichever, depending on the situation of every country, Muslim Brotherhood organizations. Then one man, one vote meant, yes, democracy, but another type of democracy, oppressive Muslim Brotherhood democracies. That was what happened in Egypt, and soon everyone realized the mistake, because what the Turkish Muslim Brotherhood, in quotes, tried to achieve in 12 years, with the advice of the Turkish brothers, the Muslim brothers tried to achieve in 1 year. They were ruthless, they were very tough in application, and created such a huge reaction in the society that within a year, Morsi found himself back in jail, that he escaped to become the president. Of course, this situation has a background, which is the Turkish case. This Arab background, this Arab Spring, many people have a correlation with the Turkish experience, but the Turkish experience has 200 years of background democracy. The idea nourishing, developing, has a huge background. Besides, I mean, when we talk about changing to Latin alphabet, many people think that it was done overnight, whereas it was done first in the military, and it was done because there were problems reading the maps, and the military first moved to Latin alphabet some 60 years before the collapse of the empire. And many people just tend to ignore that. I mean, that is, the military were by alphabetical for a 60-year period. And when Abdul Hamid, the last but one Sultan, hired Afghani to establish the confederation and save the segment of Europe from collapse, and indeed make it a big empire, it was hoping that, this would be a great success. However, it failed, because Afghani betrayed, got the money from Sultan, spent precious time in the palace, studied the course, then fled to Egypt and became the theological forefather of Sayyid Qutb's, Ahmed Bannar's and others. While the Turkish case, and by the way, Afghani later, at the end of his life, again took refuge in the Ottoman palace and died at the Ottoman palace, but not as a scholar to change the course of the history, but this time as a last gift to him. The Ittihad Islam Utopia, however, that is Union of the Islamic States that Afghani developed with the money paid by the Sultan, was inherited by Necmettin Erbakan years later, who in 65, a little bit earlier than that, but really to parliament in 65, he was elected as the sole deputy, Islamist independent deputy to parliament, despite all the Kemalist secularist dogma at all the time. And from one deputy, he grew up a huge movement of Turkish political Islam, loyal to the teachings of Afghani at the Ottoman court, or followed the heritage of Abdul Hamid. From where we see it, when he became prime minister in 96, the first thing Erbakan did was to establish the aid. And the aid was, developing aid as opposed to G8, was in a way geography that Abdul Hamid had in mind, from Indonesia, Malaysia, down Egypt, all the Muslim countries, prominent Muslim countries coming together. For what? To become a new front. That, of course, the geography was okay, meaningful, but the conjuncture of the time was impossible. Erbakan Hoca was too confident and moved too fast like Mercy, did what started to talk about converting Hagia Sophia into a mosque, building a new mosque in the heart of Taksim in Istanbul, hosting imams and his Muslim clergy at an iftar at the Prime Minister's official residence and such, and created a huge nerve in the country, which resulted in the first and hopefully the last postmodern coup of Turkey, where the government changed without one shot fired. It was important, but still it was an intervention in democracy, and that intervention, as the previous ones did, had a backlash which eventually brought and carried AK Party to power in 2002. I mean, every time the military intervened, we had an increase in in religious sentiments of the country. For what? Because, for example, in 1980, everyone thinks that the Turkish military is secularist, but they established theology lycees, high schools, about threefold more than the previous 5 governments did. Because religion is a good weapon to anesthetize the societies. What Erdogan and his people abandoned in 2002, we didn't understand for ages until we see something with the follow Morsi. When Erdogan said in 2002 that they changed their shirts, we thought, yeah, they changed their shirts. What? Whereas we realized that they didn't abandon Erbakan Hoca. They were abandoning the Turkish political Islam line in 2002 and adopting the Egyptian-led Muslim Brotherhood line. They were living nationalist Islam. They were accepting the Ummah Islam. It's a total difference of mentality. And we didn't realize this. I must admit, I mean, we talked a lot, we wrote a lot, but we just forget it. We just didn't see it. Thus, to repeat, Islam is a religion of peace. Islamism glorifies use of violence against all who disagree or who deviate at any degree from Salafist interpretation of the Holy Book. And Salafist, I explained yesterday, is the first Muhammadan time and the Caliphate era. To understand the picture better, shall we look at what Erdogan has been saying over the past 13 years, of course without any comment. I mean, these are self-speaking section of the thing. And I'll just go quickly. With God's permissions, of course, I am for Sharia. There is no merit to stand in silence like a prick at Atatürk's mausoleum. Alcohol must be banned. God willing, we shall convert Istanbul into a second Medina. Simpson adverts are nothing but sexual exploitation. I may agree with him, but he was reading something else. With God's permission, one day we shall lay the foundation of a grand mosque in the heart of Taksim. This is a utopia of Turkish Islamists. They keep on saying the same thing. All the schools will be converted into Imam Hatip Muslim theology schools. Thank God today there is a graduate Imam Hatip at the seat of the president of the people. I am for the opening of sessions of Grand National Assembly with recital of Holy Quran. And this, of course, continues. I will not continue and take your time more, but the mosques are our barracks, the domes are our helmets, the minarets our bayonets, and the faithful our soldiers. The poem that landed Erdogan to prison in 2000 for about 6 months. That is his political treasure. This line was from a poem by Ziya Gökalp, who was a Kurd, but the ideological forefather of Turkish nationalism. It was he who wrote the Pillars of Turkish Nationalism, a famous book that still continues to be the pillar of Turkish nationalism. This is the farce of Turkey and a Kurd doing this. Okay, I'll stop here if you like, because I think I said everything so far.
Now we're up to the present day.
Up to the present day. You know, today Turkey is passing through a very serious situation. We always said democracy is the regime where governments come with free vote of the people. Wrong. We learned that is wrong. Democracy is the regime where governments go with free vote. It should have been. We are learning that in Turkey because in June, Turkish public said no to a government. Yes, it was still the biggest party, but the people said no. But the government stayed on. The end result, since June, we have a burning country. There's an increase, a surge in terrorism. We have, unfortunately, just yesterday at the beginning, I said I showed a slide about the carnage in Ankara. We have 95 dead. They are claimed 97. Some say it's over 100. 100 plus people wounded. And of course, these are all aimed at one thing. Who did it? I think that's an irrelevant question at the moment. Who did it is secondary. What it is aimed at, what it is serving at. It is serving the consolidation of one thing. Without us, the Turkey is insecure. Keep us in power. I think this is enough.
Thank you so much, Yusuf. I'm glad. Two questions. We'll start with Bienvenido.
Regarding the road accident, wasn't the U.S. asking permission to go invade Iraq, attack Iraq through Turkey, and eventually they were denied, so they have to use the paratroopers under the first.
No, eventually they had to use aerial bombing on Iraq. Opening a land operation was later, but had Turkey allowed land operation through Turkey at the time, or bases from Turkey, perhaps still there wouldn't be a land operation immediately, but the bases would be used perhaps at the initial phase. It would be less costly and more efficient and quicker. Fatalities will be far less, perhaps.
Were there any financial inquiry or any?
Yeah, Turkey and the United States discussed for a long period about getting a certain amount of aid in exchange of use of the territory to Iraq, and they agreed on it. There was full agreement. And the gentleman who led those negotiations, who later became a Nationalist Party deputy, wrote a book on it. And we have all the details of that discussion thanks to his book.
Right. Now, at that time too, were there not the Armenian claim against the genocide, and they were claiming also some $90 billion?
That was not part of it.
At the time.
That wasn't part of it.
No. Can I just add something to that, Yusuf, because we both talked about this. At the time, when we were landing, putting ships into Mersin, getting ready to start the Northern Front.
Right.
We actually, as he was saying, it was an incredible movement. We went all up the railroad tracks because we had tanks and everything. We wanted to transport them. And we had to go and we widened some of the tunnels that were in the mountains. Right. And we had everything ready to go. We had signed contracts with about 1,000 different vendors in northern Iraq that you will supply this to us and we will pay you X amount of money. Everything from laundry services to food. Right. And that all just died. We just picked up our sticks and sent them through the Suez, and like you said, if it would have been a two-front war, it would have been over a lot sooner.
But did not the U.S. drop paratroopers?
Yeah, we did.
Later.
That's my point.
Later.
Instead of going to Turkey, they'd rather drop the troops.
Yes.
I'm intrigued how the founder of Turkish nationalism was a Kurd.
Yeah, but in this discussion, I didn't talk at all about Mustafa Kemal Atatürk, if you noticed, because I think Atatürk in this context is important in the sense he created a secular republic. I told without naming him at the beginning, because he believed in a Muslim society, democracy can live only if the state is secular, because the religion itself cannot develop in itself the secularism required for democratic governance. That is, we go back to Afghani, what he was saying, if the rulers are applying man-made laws instead of the God-made laws, then fighting them is not a necessity, it's obligation. It is the same mentality, and for the first time, of course, the Ottomans were secular to a certain degree. They were not a religious state, but officially, the Turkish state adopted secularism and moved on it. And the Mufti's office became secondary, yes, important, but not in law enactment case. It has become a civilian governance in the country for the first time. And that was the first in a Muslim society. Therefore, it was instrumental. And no one noticed this while trying to nourish democracy in Muslim societies. You have to have first secularism, then democracy. If you just move on to the democracy from A to Z, you miss everything and ruin everything, as they did in Egypt and elsewhere. Because the society is not prepared, civil society is not there, parties are not there, the free debate is not there, freedom of speech is not there. Today we are talking about freedom of speech problems in Turkey. Yes, we have problems, but we are discussing them.
Mhm.
Whereas in Arab societies, by and large, talking about these issues may land you not in jail, in grave.
Okay.
One more thing
Okay.
to what he said. Well, what he said, one of the things that he's implying here, that he says so eloquently, and he's opened my eyes to a lot of this many years ago, is that one of the real tensions in Turkey is it's never resolved, the tension between the secular society and the religious society in the 90 years. It's always been a great tension. And if you go there, like in the 90s,
And now,
you can
despite
still see it.
despite all the problems today,
Right.
despite all the problems today, I hope we'll catch the opportunity of coming out of this mess with a civilian election, not a military option, and thus consolidate democracy, because then we'll be able to say Turkey is a democracy, not a pseudo one.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Randy, get a picture. Wake up, Randy.